The next section is the artistic discipline of your project. And you'll see that there's a number of different categories there. I want to discourage you from picking multidisciplinary unless you really have to. And the reason for that is that we are trying to give the panel some sense of specificity of what is happening in your project. So for example, if you are a dancer and you're working on a performance that does incorporate video and audio, it is true that you are working in multiple disciplines on that project, but it is more precise and conveys more to the panel if you pick performance as your primary discipline and media arts as your secondary discipline, so that they get a sense of what elements are involved in this project. So these definitions are not meant to limit you. They're just a way to sort of communicate, if you had to prioritize what is the primary discipline, it's not everything, but what is the main form that you're working in, as well as the secondary one. In the guidelines section of the application, we have examples of what art forms fall under each of these categories. If you're working in an art form that doesn't appear there on that list, or you're unsure which discipline to pick, you can also call us at the office or email us, and we can help you decide what to pick. The next section of the application is the social change intent of your project. And this is a list of several different issue areas. And one of the conversations that I have very often with people is, for example, we have feminism listed as well as racial justice. And people have said to me, well, for me, feminism inherently includes racial justice. And that is fine. We are asking you to self-define which category most resonates with you and you think is most relevant to your project. And you will have an opportunity in the body of the application to define what it means to you. You have to pick at least one, and you can pick no more than 3. And if you are picking multiple ones, you want to make sure that all of them are equally clearly addressed in that application. Because sometimes we have people pick multiple social change intents and then they really only emphasize one and don't tie in the others, and that can work against your application. The next section is the short description of your project. This is 1 to 3 sentences that is describing very briefly what this project is. This is kind of like if you've heard the term an elevator pitch, right? This idea, if you just had someone's attention for a very short period of time, how would you describe the project? And what is the most important sort of high level, concept of how to describe it? Instead of getting into all the details of it. This is not a place to be poetic. This is probably going to be the driest, most matter-of-the-fact section of the application that you write. For many people, they find that it's actually easier to write the rest of the application first and then approach this section. So if you feel stumped by it, that might be a recommendation to consider. You should also imagine that the panelists that are reading your application for the Art and Change Grant are reading between 75 to 100 applications. And so you want to give them something that's kind of like a hook for remembering who you are and what you're about, because this is the first thing they will read in your application. And also when they're flipping back and forth between the applications and discussing it on the panel decision day, this summary is the thing that gets repeated that they will look at. So if I'm trying to remember like This person is the person who is doing hip hop dance classes in their community center. This is the person who's painting portraits of her neighbors and doing a community dinner. Like, I want to be able to say a quick, short sentence that summarizes what it is that you are doing. And so that should be simply and clearly conveyed there in that short project description, so that the panelists can refer to that as they're making their deliberations and have that reminder.